Good afternoon. My name's Miller, and I am an addict, and welcome to the Addiction Show. And we're honored today to have Justin.volpe as our guest. Justin, say hello.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a
nice
pleasure
to be here.
So we have a lot of ground to cover, and we only have half hour to do it. So I thought we'd start a little bit with your story. Where you're from, what happened, and we're going to tie certainly corrections and mental illness and some other things together, hopefully for the greater good. So
That's what it's all about. So I'll just start with a brief intro, and then maybe we can share a little bit of the film before I get into my story. That's
Sure.
all right with you. So my name's Justin.volpe. I'm in long-term recovery. That means I've been hit 10 years sober in August, and I'm really thankful for that. I also suffer from a serious mental health issue, which I'm in recovery for. I'm a certified recovery peer specialist. That's a person with that kind of lived experience that works with other people that are experiencing those symptoms or signs. I have done that for the last 15 years, and my current role is a peer support coordinator at the National Association State of Mental Health Program Directors. That's a long acronym. Don't Google it. No, just kidding. But I work for Miami-Dade County for 14 years before this job, working in the Miami-Dade County Jail Diversion Program, getting people out of jail with serious mental health and co-occurring issues.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
you got to slow down. I know you're a Yankee, but this is a Southern crowd. So
Am I going too fast?
a little bit, yeah.
Are we still recording?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
This is like Tom Corvell. It's one shot.
Okay, one shot.
So no, because there's a lot. There's a
I'm
lot you
saying a
put
lot.
out there.
I know.
So I want everybody to be able to absorb everything you're saying.
So I made my career before this most recent national program that I'm with now. It's a program, Miami-Dade County Jail Diversion Program. They get people with serious mental health and co-occurring issues out of jail, and we link them to services in the community. My job as a peer specialist was working with those individuals that were coming out of incarceration.
But you didn't just drop out from the sky into that job.
No, it was
So
given
we are
to me.
gonna. So
Yeah.
you're not from Miami originally. You came here from
Jersey.
Jersey.
I've been in Miami 20 years.
So you arrive in Jersey, 20 years. You arrive in Miami from Jersey 20 years ago. What happens then after a short while here in Miami?
Well, that's great. That's a great segue to what we're talking about. So, I experienced trauma, substance abuse in Jersey.
You came here to get all better?
I came here to get better. My brother was a model in Miami Beach. He said, "Why don't you move with me to South Beach and get clean?" And we know how this story is going to go. I lived there for 4 years. I worked about 24 different jobs. I moved about 10 different times.
Did you get arrested?
Completely unmanageable life, and I eventually ended up incarcerated in 2007 in the Miami-Dade County Jail on the 9th floor, which was dubbed the Forgotten Floor, which is the psychiatric floor in the old jail by the Justice Building, not TGK.
Is that naked in a rubber room?
There was some tough times in there, and there was actually a lot of exposés on cruelties and things happening at the time I was in there, and it was unbelievable. But I had a serious mental health issue. I had a drug problem, and through my time in there, this program that I just told you about that I worked for got me out and gave me an opportunity at recovery in the community.
How did that happen?
My family advocated like crazy. They didn't bail me out. My bail may have been only $500, but they knew if I bailed out, I would maybe end up dead. So, through
So they loved you enough to let you go through this.
yeah, it's a tough thing to do.
We might need the Kleenex.
Yeah, hold on.
Sorry,
I'd
Justin.
like to thank the Academy. We're going through this pretty quick, but I got out and was forced into treatment because I was forced. I didn't want to do it. Anybody will say
So you're
anything to get out of jail.
mandated.
Exactly. But it's kind of voluntary, but it's
Do you remember your first
voluntold.
meeting?
Yeah, it was at a psychiatric facility at Jackson Memorial Hospital, and it was a double
I
trouble
was
meeting.
born there, but I don't remember you.
Oh, they go
Born
from
Jackson.
one wing to the next.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
So you
I
began early recovery.
yeah, but I struggled when I got out. I hit a rock bottom through my treatment with the courts, and I said I'm never going to touch drugs again. But I continued to drink at 23 years old.
Did you not consider alcohol a drug?
No, I didn't. I
You were
thought the other
23?
stuff was really
You were
messing with.
bulletproof?
No, I thought the other stuff was illegal. It was really messing with me, and it was in my culture, an Italian family, to have a drink, no big deal. But I'll tell that as part of the story later when I quit drinking. But I closed out my court case, and they said, you know, how about you come work for us and work with people in the community?
So somebody saw something in you.
They
Who
just
was that,
they
or
just
how did
needed
that
they just
happen?
needed a warm body to fill a position. This is how you get a county job. You go from, I'm kidding. They saw something in me. They saw that.
Did you see that in you at that point?
No,
They did, though.
no. I didn't know what the job entailed. I needed a job, and I just did it.
So they
And
were
it was
getting
a
ready to release you, or they had released you? And
No,
they
I
said,
closed out. I closed out my course. It was actually almost exactly 15 years ago because my birthday just passed, and it was the day before my 24th birthday. And I'm walking out the courthouse. I'm ready to go celebrate. What do people do when they leave and they close out their case? They call me to the office. They offer me the job. I said, all right, I'll give it a try.
And what was that job?
It was a peer specialist.
And what is a peer specialist?
Peer specialist is someone that has some kind of lived experience with serious mental health, substance abuse issues, trauma, things like that, and is working with other people in
I have a
recovery
question.
like that. Tell me,
Ask you.
am I talking too fast?
No, well, I have a good producer. He can like slow you down just a little. So, my understanding is that it's only recently that the state of Florida has lowered the bar in terms of the requirements for peer specialists. That part of the problem is, okay, I'd like to be a peer specialist, and I have lived experience. Oh, but you've been incarcerated, so you don't. So it became problematic to get peer specialists. So how did you, having been incarcerated, how did you sneak under that bar or meet the standard?
Well, I'll clarify. I was not certified when I began the job. So I was not certified by the state of Florida. That was a process that I had to get an exemption from the state. And there are ways you can get exemptions through DCF, Department of Children and Families, and the state of Florida to
If
get
somebody
that
wants
certification.
To be, that's listening to the show wants to be a peer specialist.
I think you should, and I think you should contact the Miami Recovery Project afterwards. So
And who were they?
Tommy Guerra, if I can say his name right. I'm on the board of directors.
You're wearing his shirt.
Peer-run organization. It's the only shirt I had this morning, so I just threw it on.
He said if I give you a shirt, will you talk nice about me?
He said he'd buy me lunch, so,
Big cheese, yeah. So, and what do they do?
So, not to get too far ahead, they're a peer-run organization, but they can hook you up with people in the community to do the peer trainings. And once you get the trainings and voluntary hours, you don't even have to be employed as a peer specialist. You need just volunteer hours, and you can apply to be a certified peer specialist through the state of Florida. Take a test. There's new legislations that went to the governor's office that made an exemption so people with criminal backgrounds, certain level charges can become peers. Because I think that was the language. It's not that everybody can get a state certification, but there's people doing this work already, right? Whether you want to call them peers, certified peers, whatever. This is a helping field. This is a service field. This is just puts a profession to it, what people have done for centuries, right? One person has the experience, they help somebody else with it. And I was blessed to be put into this position and this path because I had nothing else. I had nothing else going for me, and I made a career out of it. I mean, I went from, being what was deemed completely disabled. And when I was at the hospital, at the jail, they said you'd never work again. You'll probably be on disability the rest of your life. And don't plan for too much, kid, basically, because you have an incurable illness at 23 years old.
So did you feel like shit when you heard that?
Oh my God, can you imagine? And then a peer says the exact opposite of that. They say, you could do it. I support you in what you want to do.
What made you believe?
I drank the Kool-Aid. I don't know what to tell you. I started to do this recovery
Thank God
thing.
you did.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. I've worked with thousands of people out of jail in 14 years in the Miami-Dade County Jail Diversion Program.
What did you do with them?
I would get them out of jail. When they got out of jail, they'd get out of court. I would be there with their property from TGK, their personal belongings, medication, clothes, resources to get them to where their three-quarter-way house, back home, to a homeless shelter, to a treatment program, wherever they were told they had to go. And then once they got out, I would support them. So my main objective, because it's a strange place to be as somebody in recovery to work this role and to have the court saying you need to do one thing with somebody that is in young recovery want to do another. And you don't want to rat them out. You don't want to be their friend. All I want, my main objective was to keep somebody out of jail and off the street. And if I could do that and plant a seed, because for some people you're not going to get through completely, right? But you can just do the next right thing, plant a seed and help them I would take them to their appointments. I would do groups with them.
And you got paid for that? That was your position?
Yeah, I got
How
paid
many-
for it.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
How many people do you figure in those 14 years did you do this for? How many clients, customers?
Thousands.
Thousands. Are you still in touch with any of them today?
No, unfortunately, I can't be because of HIPAA, and I work a different job now. But if I happen to see somebody in their recovery rooms that's further along in their recovery, of course I acknowledge them and say hello.
If there's anything was there anything you would change about that program, or is it perfect?
The system is not perfect.
The system is
People should not be getting arrested to get help.
But once they've been arrested, once that
Yeah.
mistake has been made, let's say, and they're in that position, and now they're ready, the case is closed out. Are you satisfied with the protocol and procedure that you were involved in, as an example, or would you make any changes there?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because in my new role, which is at the National Association of State Mental Health Program Directors, we're based in Virginia, and we work with all the states, tribal nations, and U.S. territories and help them with funding and support their communities and their programs. Because of my experience with the Jail Diversion Program and so many providers in the community here in Miami, I can use that and help guide other communities to not making the mistakes that we made, and those growing pains when a program is growing, and trying to make those connections across the community to help better serve people that need the help the most. And the number one thing you need to remember when you think about what needs to be made better, you need to ask the people that are being served what needs to be different, you know? Now, if they tell you they want a steak and a lobster when they get out of jail, that's a different story. But seriously, you know, getting people with lived experience their opinion on what's going on, and then paying them, and then giving them jobs and roles. Because what do people in recovery need? What helped me get me on the track to quit drinking, to live a beautiful life, is they gave me responsibility, they gave me service, and I felt connected to community, a sense of community. We can't build these systems without the people that we're serving.
I believe the opposite of addiction is connection. You know, maybe this would be a good time to watch. We have a little movie clip. You want to? Give us the intro to that, and Julian will play for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I was privileged to be invited to the White House this summer. Me and actually 3 other coworkers from Miami at the Jail Diversion Program went there. It's a Ken Burns documentary called Hiding in Plain Sight. It's on youth mental health, and I was honored to play a role in it. So you want to check it out, and go ahead.
I remember having sad thoughts and asking myself, like, what's wrong?
I'd look in the mirror and there's nothing wrong with me on the outside. There's absolutely nothing wrong to make sense of that pain.
My friends had no clue what I was going through.
In anything that I did, I couldn't find myself to be happy.
You need, like, an answer of what is going on.
It's the place where sadness leaves off and depression begins.
It feels like you want to cry, but when you try to cry and release it, there's nothing there.
It's the place where nervousness becomes anxiety.
Slowly started getting worse and worse over the weeks. I just stopped going out of my room sort of at all.
Where excitement becomes mania.
I'll feel so restless that one time I drove in the middle of the night to Pittsburgh just to turn around.
And habit becomes addiction.
If I take one pill, if I take one sip of a drink, it's over.
That continual usage becomes a coping method.
It's the place where simply living becomes painful.
I started to see things that weren't there.
I just saw a shadow standing in the corner. And then I started to see shadows in school.
I started to get bullied by people I considered my best friends.
Teachers say, "What is wrong with you?" And then I just start breaking down like, I don't want to talk about it.
I'll just cut myself or burn myself or bite myself so that I wouldn't feel all this pain that I felt inside of myself.
All of us are affected by mental health challenges in some way, whether in our own lives or the life of someone we know, often hiding in plain sight.
I'd go to school. You know, you put on a face, you're happy, you're bubbly, and then you eat lunch alone in the bathroom.
At that age, how are you ever gonna admit, I'm thinking of suicide?
When something abrupt like someone you know dying from suicide happens, it's very difficult to understand what to do from there.
These are the chronic issues of early life. About 75% of mental illness has onset before age 25. This is the problem that we all deal with in secret.
Help is available, and with the right treatments, you can feel better.
After my parents got divorced in 3rd grade, we started going to a counselor.
I think I don't actually give my therapist enough credit.
I need to be medicated. God, that sentence sounds... I need to be medicated.
I was on medications that they would put grown men on.
For many who have suffered silently, simply reaching out may be the most intimidating step of all. But the relief can be as indescribable as the pain once was.
Finding your person that can help you through times like that is extremely important. And once you start talking, then you'll realize that that's your person and that they can help you through these struggles and that you aren't alone.
You have value. You are worthy of love.
These are the journeys of more than 20 young Americans from all over the country and all walks of life, who have struggled with thoughts and feelings that have troubled and at times overwhelmed them. They share what they have learned about themselves, their families, and the world they live in. They speak for many of us. They speak to all of us.
Back. Justin, I want to spend a minute talking about the correlation between addiction and mental illness. You know, I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and I'm active in a 12-step program. And when I first started, when it came some clarity, and I saw the second step, it talked about restoration to sanity. And I'm thinking, they must have just written that. How did they know I was crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew I was crazy, and I would do things to try to cover it up because, you know, I used the drugs to try to cover my craziness. Oh no, he's not crazy. He's just high. He's just messed up.
Mm-hmm. But what happens when the drugs aren't there?
I hunker down, or I put on my best show, or there's a couple stories we can talk about off air. There's some things there, but certainly there may be this different sides of the same coin, or maybe they're even on the same side. So how do you balance addiction and mental illness and putting them together to get, you know, a whole person that can function in society?
Well, the things that they don't talk about in the rooms a lot is the education is that addiction is a form of mental illness. You know, I've worked in the field for a long time.
I thought I was just cool.
No, yeah, you are cool.
Well, you're cool too.
You're not cool. You're
Right.
part of the club.
Okay.
They stamped your hand. You know, it doesn't come off. But you know, everybody's journey is different. And, this isn't to label everybody that has this is this, everybody's story is personal. And I say, what works for you, what worked for me is that I got both looked at, and it made a big difference. Some people can just kick it with the addiction and they may not have an underlining, and that's great for them. You know what I mean? But I worked in the field, and I worked with a psychiatrist that said everybody has some form of mental illness, whether it's minor anxiety or depression once in a while.
And we're
right?
all recovering
Yeah,
from something.
Yeah, and everybody's been through things. Just because we react differently to them, some people may turn to addiction and go down that rabbit hole. Other people do not. Doesn't make them stronger or weaker. We just are all
for
built
you,
differently.
The mental illness part manifested itself visibly enough and vocally enough that they go, we better pay attention to both. And a lot of people, I know in my case, I mean, I worked the steps and I had a sponsor and all like that, but it would have been helpful, certainly in treatment or early on, had there been the mental health component to even things up and help me along with just the stoppage of the use of drugs and alcohol.
Absolutely, and I think there's more and more education, and like this film promotes, and what a lot of different organizations are trying to break the stigma on mental health, because there's such a stigma to say, I have a problem with my brain. My brain's not working well. Can you imagine when you were in your peak, somebody saying you're mentally ill, you need to get help? How would you react to that? And where does that come into what the role I was telling you of a peer, of somebody with that lived experience, to not come out and say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not clinical, but I've felt that way too, and to share that experience and to say, well, this is what worked for me. Why don't I help you find your path? You tell me what is meaningful to you. And that's what peer work is about. It's a mutual relationship. And I think that, by the way, SAMHSA, the federal government, says we're 1 million peer workers short. We talk about this workforce shortage. We need 1 million peer specialists. So get the training. Look for your community local providers in Miami. Get with Miami Recovery Project. Get with grassroots organizations. I can share my contact as well if anybody's interested after, and I can point you in the right direction. But it's a great field if you're in recovery. You're not going to become a millionaire, so don't think you're going to do this and be the CEO. I hope you are. But it's meaningful work, and that's what it's about. I used to go home when I was in direct service and sleep good and know I did the best I could do that day in helping somebody, And I'm blessed to be in the role I am now, because of this recovery journey. I live a meaningful life. I have 2 children I'm raising that I don't have to show, that have never seen the addiction. My mental illness is in check. When they go through those stages, when they're older, if they do, I'm there for them to catch it. I'm staying on point, not just for me, for my family, to raise a healthy family, to not pass on those traits, and to work in these communities and use that experience. And, how in recovery they say, God's will, not ours. And not to get religious with the higher power or anything, but I had no idea what was in store for me in my recovery. And it wasn't until I just shut up and started doing the work and doing what was put in front of me and put one foot in front of the next that all these blessings started happening. And that's not to say I take them for granted or things could change tomorrow, because they always could. But I'm grateful for today. I'm so grateful that we are having this conversation and I'm able to do this work and to have the mind frame, like from a doctor that said I would never recover and be, stamped for the rest of my life to an institution. It's amazing what people are, capable of, and how resilient we can be as humans.
So let's get back to talking for a minute about Miami Recovery Project.
Absolutely.
And there's people out there that are watching the show, or somebody that loves them that are watching the show, and that feel helpless and hopeless, that don't know where to turn. And it used to be years ago that we go to South Miami Hospital. That was the resource, and that no longer is available. But that vacuum is now being filled to a great extent by Miami Recovery Project. They have referral services, allied training, they'll overdose awareness, Narcan distribution. So if you're having a problem or your loved one's having a problem with drugs and alcohol or mental illness too, and you don't know where to turn, Tommy, Julian, could you put up the scroll for MiamiRecoveryProject.org, please? You know, get hold of these people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not saying they're going to give you a shirt. They didn't give me a pretty shirt like that. Get the T-shirt, but there's hope, and you don't have to sit there going, "I'm crazy." Somebody told me that I can never be anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
No,
true.
they're great.
That's not true. Right?
I
Go
love
ahead.
Miami Recovery Project. They're a great resource for the community. But I do want to clarify for our listeners, if this is a life-threatening emergency or somebody may be a little too far, you know, gone to need the help, you can call 911 and ask for a CIT officer. That's part of the training I do. I've trained over 2,500 officers. It stands for Crisis Intervention Team. Or you can call the Mobile Response Team out of Banyan, and they can have somebody do an evaluation, God forbid, if it gets to that point.
Don't we have a new, like an 877 number?
It's 988.
988?
988 is it started
Is that
in
active
effect.
now?
We're still in the processes in Florida, but you will be connected with somebody. But that's one of the great things I'm working on nationally with a lot of communities, and it's going to be amazing. It may take some time to completely roll out. Not, 911 took 30 years to roll out across this country. And
We don't have 30 years right now. You have to get to work, Justin.
Yeah, I'll do it. Million peers short. I need you to sign up tomorrow, okay?
You know what? Okay, I'll do that.
I think you should. I think you'd like it.
So one of my roles as a result of doing a whole bunch of these shows it's been obvious that providers need to be connected to each other. Again, that word connection. And as an example, I connected Tommy, my recovery project, to Rachel Askowitz of the Sandler Center over at the University of Miami. And then I stood back, I started that food fight, and they did the heavy lifting. But as a result of that connection, August 31st of this year, we had Overdose Awareness Day at the U during the afternoon with the students and at night with the whole community. And it was a powerful event, a Kleenex event. People talking about that they shared that they had lost a loved one. And that role is going to be expanded. So if somebody wants to ask me questions or be of assistance, they can go to miller@miamiconnect.org. We don't have the website or the social media quite up and running, but that's certainly on the agenda for the next month or so. But miamiconnect.org. There's a lot everyone can do. You talked about doing the next right thing, and doing, I do every day a random act of kindness, or sometimes not so random. If it's the end of the day and I haven't done something nice for somebody, I'll go in Publix and insist somebody go before me in line, and whether they want to or not. And
no, go.
No, don't you understand? I've been a jerk all day. I have to do something nice. You're my good deed. And usually they go, or they go to find security or something. But it's all right. Everybody has to. This is an action program. It is for you, for me. Everybody has their own journey. If you're new to recovery and you're just coming into recovery, don't think you're going to sit there and just watch the Netflix movie. This is real deal. This is life and death. This ain't Elks Club. This is getting involved. This is fighting back against the scourge of addiction. One person at a time. That's why I asked you about the work that you did when they come out of the jail and you pick them up and literally pick them up.
Yeah, it was meaningful work, and I'm glad for the experience, and I'm glad it has given me the recovery to be here today with you.
And I want to thank you for that. We're gonna close out. I'm glad I got you to slow down a little.
I know.
And
there's that coffee you gave me before.
Zoom. I want to give a brief shout out also to my son, Sergeant Joshua Myers, in the United States Air Force in Germany. Son, thank you for your service, and be safe. And I think that's it, Justin. You did good.
Excellent. You guys have a great day.